Willst du jetzt einfach nicht alles einmal die Bar.
Morning everyone! Not okay. Not
He's asking for credit. Watch and learn. I'd like to discuss reaching a line of credit. You dare talk to me like that?
Wie man einen Film sehen konnte, ist John ein Mann von vielen Qualitäten. Wollen wir nicht lange warten? May I ask to the stage the unknown stuntman, John Bennett.
Good morning, nobody food, so I guess it's okay to come out. I'm surprised. I didn't expect that tape. I expected another, but it has some funny parts to it, doesn't it? First of all, let me thank you again for having me here. And I guess we'll do this impromptu, so if you have any questions while I'm talking, if anything springs to mind, feel free to ask. But to basically let you know a little bit about me, you know I was a stuntman, and you know I'm an actor, and a little bit of everything. That video, the music that you heard, was a video I did in America called Crossroads, and we were fortunate enough to get a Grammy and Soul Train Award for that video. I do have a distinction. I mean, the writers, I don't know if they planned it this way, but I have a distinct uniqueness about my Klingons in that I'm the most inept Klingons that have ever been on Star Trek. For example, in the House of Quark, I was the only Klingon that was drunk and so clumsy I died on my own knife. And not only did I die on my own knife, but then Quark proceeded to take my wife. Afterwards, I played a despicable young Klingon who was Martok's son, who was so dislikable that when Worf beat me up, I'm sure a lot of you were applauding at home. Okay? And another Klingon I played was in the season opener 2 years ago, which was called Return to Grace, and I played a Klingon that discovered the bomb that Renee Auberjonois had planted in the Hall of Warriors. It actually rolled to my boot, and I picked it up, discovered it, saw it was some kind of destructive item, and it was so stupid that Worf convinced me it was a child's toy, and I gave it back. So, I mean, if it comes down to being a heroic figure, I can be a Klingon real well. But I'm not very bright, okay? So. As far as stunts goes, Star Trek has been, of all the shows I've worked, and I've worked quite a few, everything from Hunter, believe it or not, to Matlock and Jake and the Fat Man. And when I came on to Star Trek as a stuntman instead of just an actor, it's been one of the most exhilarating experiences I've ever had. And to give you some idea as to why I chose stunts, it was truly an accident. I happened to be working a role as an actor, and the part called for some action, and they hired a stuntman to double me. And this guy was clumsier than I was. And I watched a few takes, and I happened to go to the stunt coordinator, and I said, hey, what do you think about me doing this? He goes, no, we can't afford to let you get hurt. And as you guys saw in my bio, I played football at Ohio State. And I've been pretty active most of my life, and I said, hey, I can handle this, no problem. So we went to the producers, and we bantered it back and forth, and they decided to let me do it. And I guess I did a good enough job where they decided to let me do all my own stunts. And then he decided that if I were going to do that, I should go into training. And this is a funny story because, like everybody else, you see the stunts and you go, oh, I could do that. I mean, if that's a stunt, you know? But you'd be surprised what it takes to be a stuntman. Okay, here's a little known story that the majority of the work that stuntmen do is called fight falls. Now, by fight falls, of course, we fight alive. And when you fight, you usually get hit and you fall. But the first time I ever did what was known as a footfall, fall to the ground, I never knew the ground was so hard. I mean, it rang my bell, my eyes were rolling around, like, and he told me, okay, now get up and do it again. So that's when I had to make a decision, did I want to continue to do this, or did I want to give it up then? And you'd be surprised how many people give it up at that point. But I learned how to do it, and the ground never softened up, but I guess I got a little mush on my body, so I've been doing it a lot since, and it's been about 10 years of it. And with the extensive training and things that you learn, it takes me back to acting in a way, and this is the correlation that people don't see. They had a series one time called The Fall Guy, and it was about stuntmen, and we're called the unsung heroes. Isn't that romantic? But the idea is that stunt people make the action real. They help the production by creating and implementing something, an idea, so that it works well on camera, and it makes the actor that you portray look vital. And for me, as an actor who started on stage many years ago, the one thing that I liked about stage was what's called immediate gratification. You see, when you do a performance on stage and you give of yourself to the audience, and they're sitting there, and when the act is over and you come out for your applause, then they can actually either tell you if they liked it or they disliked it by the applause. And if in fact they do like it, there's no other feeling like it in the world, to hear that applause, to see the gleam in the eyes, and to be appreciated. And it makes you feel like you're good at what you do, or you've done something worthwhile. And on film, the difference is that when you act, it has to be taken from the stage to the post-editing room, and then it's up to the editor and the director as to what really makes it onto the reel. So you're never quite sure whether you did a great job, a good job, mediocre, so forth. And you have to wait for the product to come out. Well, in the case of the stunts, believe me, you know right away whether or not you did a good job. A funny instance is one of the stunts I had to do, and you'll probably see in the next reel, was one where I had to dive across a metal table, take a man to the floor, beat him senseless, get snatched off of him, beat the other guy senseless, jump on him, choke him, headbutt him, And the problem was I had no place to wear pads. So this was strictly one of those things like if somebody told you to do that, believe me, I don't think you would do it even for money. But the fact that we did it, and we did it like several times, and when we were finished, 75 people who were standing around on stage actually got up and applauded. It makes it all worthwhile. There's no money, there's no incentive other than, again, being useful and making a difference and being good at your craft. So that it offers me an immediate gratification to know that I'm skilled at what I do. So that I look forward to it. It's a sense of challenge and this is the actual chance of injury without injury that makes it impelling to me because I'm a thrill seeker. Very easy, Mattel and Campbell chicken broth. I didn't say it was easy, but if you're determined like I was, you can do it. Of course, be prepared that any smells you smell in the wind or close by, your stomach will rebel, okay? So, I didn't say if it wasn't suffering, and I don't do it anymore, as you see. What about anybody else?
Yeah, up here.
Okay. Where? Oh, you're up there, okay.
Okay, I guess I bet you're waiting for the question. Do you have anything in mind to show us and stand here? The stunt?
A stunt that I can do here? Well, actually, you know, stunts are a two-part proposition. I mean, people, you've seen men do fights. It's kind of hard to do a stunt by myself unless they call that slap comedy. I mean, physical comedy where you just fall. Of course, I could fall, but then you wouldn't be impressed, would you? I mean, you say, hey, I've done that in the kitchen. But usually a stunt is done with two men because one delivers and the other sells it, if you understand what I mean. If you hit somebody, I mean, if the man just stood there and did this, you say, well, what was that? But if you have a tendency to believe that he really got hit hard. Well, at the same time, same thing with falls. If you knock somebody down and he kind of rests like this, you know, it doesn't look like he fell, but if he gets up off the ground and gets a little air and hits the ground real hard, you say, wow, he really fought it, you know. So it's a matter of delivering and selling, and that's part of the training. I wish I could. And you know what, tomorrow, I'll bring my pads and I'll see what I can do. Story. I was stunt doubling for a gentleman named Matthew Patrick, on a movie called Still Shit on That Side. I understood he might very well do it, you know? So what I did was, like you said, I try to help the actor in cases where I think the actor can do it. Then safety is my major concern. What I'll do is I'll tell him what to look out for. I'll tell him things to do to make it look better on camera. I'll tell him what angles to do, but usually implementing it and doing it are not quite the same as saying it. And what happened is being prepared for it not to work the way he thought it was when he started to do it after convincing the director, and I told him I'd be a safe director of photography who is in charge of the camera angle so that I can't see what's behind the camera, but the director of photography can. The director has a thought or an image in his mind that he would like to create. So the director, along with the director of photography, along with the stunt coordinator, will get together with the idea, see what's feasible, what's workable, and then come to me and say, can you do this? And then if I say yes, then we work it out so that it comes to some reasonable conclusion. No, I don't need the desk. There we go. Did it make you feel like school? You know, you go into school and the guys behind the podium, they feel like just lobbing it. But this is a personal thing between you and I. I look forward to getting to answer your questions and get to know you because, like I said, this is the reason I'm here. Thanks. I told you I wasn't smart. You know, originally, the question was, my first time in Germany, am I going to be able to extend my stay and look around and see more? And originally, that's exactly what I planned to do. In fact, I am going to stay after the convention. I've been invited by very nice people to visit and spend a little time in other parts of Germany, and I will. But I intended to also travel to other parts of Europe. I intended to go to France and Italy. But because of work at home, I'm going to have to chop my stay by quite a bit. And I'm going to have to go back earlier than anticipated, but I look forward to seeing you more.
John, over here. You got a bunch of people in various stations.
Oh, I can't see. Okay, let me come over here. Okay, who are we? Please.
What kind of martial arts training do you have?
I've taken Taekwondo, Shaolin, Aikido, and Jiu-Jitsu.
Thank you very much. Well done. Excellent. Potato there. Warum soll man länger warten?
Well, is it still morning? No, it's afternoon. Hummel, hummel! Yes, all right. All right. Well, you know, I didn't plan to come to this convention like this. But as I said, you know, the 25 guys were surrounding me. There's not much more I can do with this story. John would have better stories because, you know, he's actually been in situations where he has had 25 Klingons or he's been one of the 25 Klingons. But he was great, wasn't he? You know, let me tell you about stunt guys from my perspective. My very first film was a film called Dirty Harry, and I played this psychopathic crazy guy. Just a misunderstood kid, you know? From a broken family. His mother didn't give him... Well, we won't get into that. Anyway, so I was at that time, I didn't walk around with casts, you know, and I knew how to walk without stumbling over my feet and breaking my feet. And I was a gymnast. I was a self-taught gymnast, and I was an athlete and so forth. And so when I did Dirty Harry, they let me do all my own stunts, except for one stunt. But, you know, I convinced them that I could do these flips, and there's this one stunt that I'm very proud of, where the Scorpio Killer is running across the football field in San Francisco. And Dirty Harry takes out his big magnum and shoots him. And if those of you who saw the film, you remember, he flips. I did a full front flip, stuff like that. I was very proud of that. And I was very full of myself, thinking, what a starket, you know, what a guy. And then, until I realized that there was one stunt that I had to do where I had to slide down a banister. And even though they put a leather patch under my pants so I wouldn't get slivers into my rear end, still I had to do it over and over again. And I realized this isn't any fun. I don't like repeating stunts. And so gradually, and I was one of those actors John talks about, hey, no, I can do that, man, let me do it. But then gradually, as I did more and more films, I realized, well, you do it, okay? I don't want to do that. Until now, if somebody asks me to even sort of like take a punch or do a swing, I say, oh, God. But these guys are great. They really are amazing because they really do it. And as John said, it sometimes is a matter of life and death. And they're a breed apart. Stunt people are like no other people you will ever meet. They are the nicest people in the world. They're the craziest. There's no question. They're all as bent as Dick's hat band. I mean, they're really out there. But they are the nicest people. I have a feeling because they have an outlet for their madness. They do these stunts, and so they don't have to go around being mean and nasty like the rest of us. Anyway, what I loved, and John has sort of given me an idea about like what I like to talk about, because he talked about his craft, and it's the craft of the actor and the craft of making theater, making drama, whether it be film or television or theater. That's what interests me. I've always wanted to be an actor. As long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be an actor. And I've always, you know, when I started doing the Star Trek conventions, it was amazing to me. It was the first time in my career that I had an opportunity to meet the people who actually watch the shows. And I realized that I too have always been a fan. Not of Star Trek. I didn't watch Star Trek. I didn't watch Star Trek until I got hired. I'll talk about that later. But I can remember the very first time I asked for an autograph. I was this little boy in this town called Hartford, which is in Connecticut, which is in New England, very close to New York City, where I was born. And I was a weird little kid. I used to go to the movies all the time. So I would sneak into films, you know, sneaking in without paying. That's because we weren't very well off, so, but I wanted to go to the movies. So I would sneak into 2 and 3 movies a day. I think they knew what I was doing, and they just felt sorry for me and just let me in, but to turn the other way. And so one day, I'm walking up the street with my mother, and there was a live theater in Hartford, near where we were walking. And I walked past this drugstore, and I looked in, and there was this actor I had seen in the movies. And it's terrible, you know, as I speak now, I've forgotten his name. I feel terrible about it. His name was Jeffrey something, but it'll come to me sometime. I thought I would die from happiness. There was an actor, and this was an actor I'd only seen on the big screen. Now, I'm very old. I'm a very old person. I'm about 103. No, really, I take a lot of monkey shots, you know, so I look younger than that. But I did not grow up with television. So all my early experiences were from the big screen, were from films. And to see somebody, one of the giant people from the big screen. So I don't know how I knew about autographs. I don't know how I knew this. But I told my mother to wait a minute. She said, "What are you doing? Get there. What's the secret?" So I thought, okay, I'll become a school teacher, or even for a while I was thinking of becoming a newspaper reporter, and even for a while I was thinking of becoming a diplomat, which is very funny. If you ever knew me, I'd be the world's worst diplomat. They'd kick me out of their country in no time flat. I'm afraid I don't have diplomatic speak. Or even a politician, which makes me laugh too, because now I detest politicians. Yeah. Anyway, so I was in this restaurant, and I was sitting down. I went to this school called the University of New Hampshire, which is in New England, New Hampshire. New Hampshire is where my father's family was from. And I had just been kicked out of the university for political activity that was not approved. And I was waiting for some friends, and this old art history teacher of mine came into the restaurant and sat down at the table with me. And he hadn't seen me in a while. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to school in New York now." And he said, "No, but what are you doing? What are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "I don't know, I'm going to be a school teacher or something like that." And he said, "No, no, you are an actor. And I never realized it, but this guy had seen me doing these college plays. And he obviously believed that that's what I was supposed to do because that's what he decided. And of course, I was like putty. I was very malleable. I mean, you could tell me, go that direction, I'd go, okay, I'll go that direction. No, I'll go that direction. Or the wind would blow and I'd go with the leaves. So you're an actor. And I said, oh, yeah? Well, what do I do? I sound like Rom, you know? I mean, what do I do? And he says, you apply, and he had this gravelly voice, kind of sounded like an Italian Odo. And I was. I went to this school called the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. And it was a great school. And I mean, that's where I decided that this is what I will do for a living because it became like a craft. And this is where I became truly involved in the craft of acting, the work of it. As John was talking about the craft. By the way, John said something that was really quite beautiful that summed up what for me acting is. When he said that you take your life experience and you bring this life experience of yours to a character. And then what of that life experience pertains is applicable to that character. You share it. And basically that's what it is. You share what you know about your life through this character, whether it's Garrick, or Liberace, or a Klingon, whatever. And then you share it. And those people who can share the most generously are, for me, my favorite actors. The ones who do not stint, who are not mean and stingy, who don't try to hide. Because a lot of acting, you see a lot of actors and a lot of acting where it's about people are hiding and people are pretending that they're doing something else, or they're pretending that there's something that they are not. You can't pretend to be something that you're not. Some people feel that is what acting is. It's not. You can only be what you are through the filter of this character. Anyway, so that's when I first decided that that's what I wanted to do. And from then on, that's the thing that's been the most important for me. It's not been the money. We all have these juvenile, infantile fantasies about being rich and famous and being up there on the big screen with the giant people. I mean, this is, as a child, of course, but after a while, you have to grow out of these fantasies. And the sooner you do, the better. I mean, it took me longer than most, but I tend to be, a rather bonehead about this. But because you grow up and as you mature, you realize this is a job. It's a job like making shoes, like making bridges, like making bones heal. It's a job. And like any job that's worth its salt, it has a craft. And it's a craft, like John says, that I will be spending the rest of my life learning how to do. I couldn't spend the rest of my life going to scuba diving classes and jiu-jitsu and so forth, which is why I would never be a good stuntman. But I will spend the rest of my life studying acting, studying people, studying behavior. And because that's the thing that fascinates me the most. That's why I love these conventions too. I love coming here because I watch you as much as you watch me, believe it or not. I study you as much as you study me. Because human behavior is, it's part of my trade. It's what I'm fascinated by this. One of the great things about breaking my foot is that I have to, it's sort of God's way of saying, Robinson, shut up and slow down. So, with my broken foot, I sit in chairs a lot and I watch. And it's wonderful. It's like what I was talking about when I was reading Garrick's diaries last night, about Garrick being exiled to a place that he hates and doing a job that he considers menial, but he's smart enough to know that there's a craft involved. So the first thing he does is to learn the craft so he can become very good at being a tailor. But he keeps his mouth shut and he listens. And he begins to hear the things that are in him as well as the things that are out there. This is one of the things that's happening to me with my foot, is that I'm now taking things in rather than spewing out and behaving like a madman, which I was before I broke my foot. But if you directed this play that I just finished directing with 2 casts, you'd be a madman or a woman too. Anyway. So when you know, ask any questions that you want. I'll be honest with you. I'm not here to bullshit you. If there may be things that I can't say, that's only because that they would hurt someone else. So I'll just like make it very clear that I'm not in a position to talk about that. See, that's very New England. It's very do you know what I mean by when I say a country bumpkin? I'm basically a country bumpkin.
And if you believe that, I got another bridge I want to sell you.
Yes, please.
I hope this mic is on. Yes, it's on. Nobody told me man before, but that doesn't matter. I just wanted to ask you something.
Sure.
Last year Mark was here and I asked him nearly the same question. It is about when you get off your job and you have done 14 hours a day with these ridges on your neck, do you still feel them after they have put them away, or is it just normal for you? Because when I take a mask on my face, I always feel it, though I took it away for half an hour or somewhat.
Do you walk around with masks on your face?
Sometimes.
Normally, I see.
I like to do things like this.
Okay, very good. I have a psychiatrist I'd like to refer you to. Because only crazy people like Mark and I and John walk around with these goddamn masks. I mean, they're awful. Yeah, you feel them. You feel them. I mean, there are times, and John will tell you, that if you do, like, for instance, in that episode that we saw Empok Noor, I worked long hours every day, and my face was raw. Man, when I finished that, there was skin missing from my, especially my cheeks. My cheeks get murdered. But it was like absolutely pathetic. I have very delicate skin. So please, when you touch me, just no.
What's your favorite episode on Deep Space Nine?
My favorite episode on Deep Space Nine probably is The Wire, which was the second season. Yeah, I think yes. Yeah, towards the end of the second season, where Garrick has this wire in his head, and he induces. What do you call those things that block pain? Endorphins, thank you. That induce the endorphins, and that the Obsidian Order and their devious, twisted genius would stick into a guy's brain just in case he was tortured and had to, so that he wouldn't give up information. The more he was tortured, the more I like this. Hurt me. Kardashian's weird and wonderful. I mean, who else would think of this thing to put in your head? Kardashians. A cross between lizards and Mr. Pickle, I said. Because in America, we had these pickle jars, and there was this character called Mr. Pickle, who had a top hat, and he had these same kind of ridges that Kardashians had. And the first time I saw a picture of a Kardashian, I thought, aha, Mr. Pickle!
Who portrayed Jahren was your favorite actress?
This is where I'm going to shift into my Garrick mode. Oh, I like all of them very much. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. If I didn't play Garrick, which role would I like to play? It's so funny because you get so involved, so subjectively involved in your character that you can't think of another character. You know, probably Odo, and it's funny because Odo, it came down to, I first auditioned, when I first auditioned for Deep Space Nine, I originally auditioned for Odo. And the audition process, it came down to 3 actors. Myself, another actor by the name of Garrett Graham, who did a wonderful thing on Voyager recently where he played another Q. He was the other Q with John Delancey. Garrett Graham and obviously Renee. And I can say this quite honestly. I mean, without bullshit, that the right actor got the role. I mean, in my final audition, I was awful. I had no handle on Odo at all. And Renee came in there with that character. He knew it. He got it. Here I am. He's talking right there. And that was that. It was perfect. I mean, I never even would have thought of that choice to put him as a gravel voice. I did something that is King Lear. I mean, King Lear, which is one of the greatest plays ever written. I mean,
I'd like to see.
Oh yeah, and I'm not old enough. I am 102 now. I think I have to get to be about 130. When I'm about 28 years. Now maybe I'll give myself 15 years, 117. When I'm 117, I'll do it. Yeah. But I mean, there's so many characters of his. I mean, that are just amazing. The man was amazing. It's one of the things in my life that I had not played enough Shakespeare, but can't do everything. You can stand or perch or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You can use my crutches, Yeah. Anyway, so how are you today?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
I'm doing really good.
Yeah, you're looking. This woman has the same profession as her father. What profession is that? Engineer. I see. Well, there were problems. The woman here says that there were problems because it was his wish that she became an engineer. There weren't problems with me. I'm going to be honest, Irene. There weren't problems with me about Rachel becoming an actor, but Irene really didn't want her to be an actor. Irene, what did you want her to become? Tell it like it is right now.
Well married. It's embarrassing. He tripped over his own foot.
But there were 30 guys surrounding him.
I don't know how that's possible, but I guess it
And
is.
John Bennett was the leader of them. And they were all Klingons. And then there are little green men that came down on a UFO, and they took me away and put the cast on.
She's right, I tripped over my own feet.
You tripped over his own feet.
Fred Astaire. Who else is out there?
Do you want to hear Frank Sinatra?
No.
No, my songs don't go very well without music. That's the only problem, no.
All right, then
No.
sing whatever you want to sing.
I will sing. I will sing. See, this is terrible when this happens.
Get used to it.
But this is what happens, isn't it? I mean, I've been spending a lot of time with musicians, and we just kind of always sing songs, and somebody starts playing the guitar, and as soon as it comes time to say, okay, let's sing something, everyone forgets every song that they've known for their entire life. Okay, I know every song in the world.
She has an insight. She has one of those memories that she can look at a piece of paper and she memorizes it. Everything is there.
Well,
eidetic memory, I think they call it. So she really does know every song in the world.
I do know every song in the world. Okay, what have I? Okay. I don't sing it. Yesterday, life was such an easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, suddenly. What is it?
war ja Gott sei Dank noch nicht alles. Morgen gibt es nochmal so einen schönen Guest-Talk.
Schau sich mal das Klo an. Ach, da ist er ja schon wieder.
Let me guess. They're only 11 days from their target. I need to know where they are and how to stop them. We need more information. A way to narrow.
I have a different philosophy than Richard does about passing along information. So anyway, we are either reconstructing a bridge over here. We're going to do just a little quick run through. Elegant design, and of course they were able to finally do the one thing. We couldn't find it. We looked everywhere.
So she had a 6:30 plane, but then we went to the fish market. Listen, I thought you were a rowdy crowd. I mean, I haven't seen more drunken people since it's unbelievable. I mean, this one guy decided that, you know, he was, I guess, too worn. Thank you very much. And so he decided to strip down and jump into the river. And then there was this, you know, this rugby team, and they were all pretty oiled, and they decided that they'd like to cool off too, but they didn't bother to strip down. They just jumped in. I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, every city should have a fish market like this. Los Angeles is so dull, so dull. I mean, a fish market to them is, I don't know, it's a few dead fish, you know, begging for someone to take them home. And that's it. You know, everybody's carrying their Avion water around in their exercise clothes. I mean, here, the inside, I mean, these people don't know it. I go, oh, well, listen, it was a cultural education for me. Anyway, so where shall we begin? Where shall we begin? I'm going to begin where I left off, and then, you know, before we open up, you know, and I start. And again, today, when you start asking me passports and heads and so I walk out, lock the door, and I go running out, and I fell over my feet and broke this. But I didn't realize that it was broken. So I thought it was just a really bad twist. I'm cursing. The guy who's driving, well, listen, you like that? I got plenty more of those. Anyway, so the guy who's driving the car is looking at me, and then he remembers, oh my God, that's the guy from Dirty Harry. It's at moments like that people realize, no, that's where I saw you. Oh, Jesus, let me out of here. So anyway, but before he can get into his car and drive away, I say, you know. So I limped down to the car, and I figured, well, that's that. You know, what a schmuck I am. I'm gonna have to live with this for a while, and it's all right, but it'll be okay. So I hop around on this for 8 days. And in the middle of this, I go to Rachel's play, which is, I said yesterday, is 20 excuse me, what? I beg your pardon. I didn't, believe me, honestly, I didn't have anything to drink at the fish market. That was nothing to drink. They haven't, it's kind of frozen, it hasn't been...
About your directing in Voyager, maybe you can tell us something about the episode Blood Fever. Was it difficult to direct Robbie and Roxanne in that episode?
Well, no, you know, it wasn't difficult to direct Robbie and Roxanne at all. I mean, it was a difficult episode to direct because we were in those caves and we had terrible lighting problems because when you're in very small spaces like that, it's hard to set up lights. So one of the first things I did was I decided that all the action that takes place in the caves is going to be done with a handheld camera. I personally love handheld camera work, where the cameraman is just holding that sucker, and they're heavy. They are heavy suckers. Just holding that sucker and following the action wherever it goes. So you get this kind of like jerky kind of thing. And when it's appropriate, it's certainly not appropriate for drawing room comedies if we're sipping our tea, you know, and having civilized conversations. But Blood Fever is about a pond far. It's about aliens in heat. So it's not civilized. I mean, they're just trying to jump on each other's bones. I mean, it was a very funky episode. So that handheld camera thing that, you know, that was, I thought was perfect. That was a great way to go with it.
And I'm the kind of person when, if I know that I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning, at 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, oh, I have one more hour, 4, then my eyes are like this, and I'm counting the minutes. So I'm tired, but I'm glad to be here.
Good, listen, so, you know, I mean,
you should have known. You are responsible for turning the development project into a total disaster.
I hope I can remember this, but once again, let me say, as East says, es ist sehr schön hier zu sein. That's because everybody's been wonderful. I mean, it's been the best convention I've ever done. You folks are very special, when you said that. And
how many have you done?
well, believe it or not, I've done 5. And 2, mostly bench. But 2 was, I was a tight end, but I wasn't fast as some of the other guys, so they put me on the line, and I was a defensive linebacker. And I could hit hard. Now, stunts is all fun. I mean, we're nuts. I mean, my friends play joke on each other all the time. I mean, it's funny. I wish I could give you a lot of examples, but we have fun with each other all the time. In fact, most of the stunt guys that I work with, I also play around with. I mean, we play baseball together, and we play football together, and we shoot pool together. We would practice together, and we eat dinner together. A play called The Man with La Mancha. That's one of my favorite plays, you know. And the song that I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this, that. No, I was going to change it. That we few, scorned and battered with scars, still strove with our last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable.
Thank you very much,
Ein großer Applaus für Thomas Wollin.
Okay, again we will continue in English now. Just a very happy announcement that the whole proceeds of this convention returned 3,000 Deutschmarks for the charity Save the Children.
This is a biography of one of my favorite writers, Samuel Beckett.
Okay, I hope you have nothing planned for June 5th to 7th, 1998. I can't announce a guest yet, but maybe you remember the track we used, the music we used to open this closing ceremony, so it goes to that direction, whatever you might make of that. Okay, that's it for today, for this weekend, for this year. I hope to see all of you next year. Please give another big hand for the stars, and
thank you.
Die Kongresshalle ist oder die Altstädter Sporthalle, wo die Konzerte hier, das Schlauterhaus. Ja, habe ich in Hamburg gesehen. Comedian.